Due to the tragic news coming out of Southport, many of you may have missed that Huw Edwards, the ex-BBC newsreader, has actually been charged with making indecent images of children. Now, I understand that story is going to get relegated given what's happened in Southport. However, the BBC aren't even putting it on their homepage at the moment. Now, you may notice in our modern world we have many strange narratives depending on who the liberal elite like and who they don't. If you're Tommy Robinson and you play a film, you're labelled a terrorist. However, if you're Huw Edwards and you commit these sorts of crimes, we're told that he's in a vulnerable state and we should be careful. And a further irony is about a year ago, The Sun reported that this may well happen to Huw Edwards, but they were shot down with total disdain by a bunch of BBC Verify-style liberal elites.
The Sun has now rowed back from this implication of criminality in their coverage. They literally said on their newspaper that the top BBC star who paid child for sex pictures could be charged by cops and face years in prison. That is a Sun headline. If that doesn't suggest criminality,
I said could be.
Does?
They didn't say it would be. They were trying to put. I mean, of course, you're absolutely right. That is exactly the implication. That is exactly what they are pointing.
And they had
towards.
a denial from the young person, their so-called child, and they chose not to run the denial.
I wonder, given Emily Maitliss's evident anger there, if she will make an apology to The Sun. And next up is left-wing brainbox Owen Jones. He stated a year ago, The Sun is a disgusting rag and they have to pay for what they've done to Huw Edwards. They tried to destroy someone's life with false claims of illegality involving a minor. We know now there was no criminality and The Sun have driven a vulnerable man into medical care. To be fair though, Owen, I think you drive half the public into medical care with your cringy woke takes on things. But what does this tell us about these liberal know-it-alls who pride themselves on their supposed integrity? Well, it tells us their integrity basically means they want a narrative that fits their liberal worldview. I mean, just take the Southport stabbings very recently. Many people were speculating that it may well be a migrant, and it ended up being a second-generation migrant. These people were told they were evil and awful and racist, but they weren't that far from the truth. Of course, when something terrible happens, leftists' main concern always seems to be someone not getting offended on Twitter. This sort of madness bleeds into the culture as well. I remember a few years back after the London Bridge attacks, I went to work and there was a Muslim girl telling someone that she was worried for her safety as a Muslim, and the fella said to her, "That's the worst thing I've heard about these attacks." It was one of those glitch in the matrix moments for me that showed me how the modern woke world really works. There were young adults who'd had their throats slit and the blood wasn't even dry yet, and the people in my office were concerned about Muslims' feelings. I know that's just an anecdote, but I'm sure many of you have got similar stories from your own lives. Secondly, there's been this idea that this liberal elite has some sort of moral virtue that the rest of us don't in recent years, if not decades. But I think that's starting to crumble apart. You can sense the public mood is really starting to change. These people are not our moral betters at all. They have a narrative to push and they dislike us because we tend to have much more traditional values and support our home country. These are just some of my thoughts, however. Do let me know what you think down below and do consider subscribing to the channel.